Hello and welcome. My name is Walter Hoydish. I am a board member with the Ukrainian Institute of America and director of art at the Institute. It's within the latter capacity that I have the great pleasure of introducing today's guest, Max Vityk. Art at the Institute has been active since its establishment in 1955, organizing projects and exhibitions with the aim of providing post-war and contemporary Ukrainian artists a platform for their creative output, presenting it to the public on New York City's Museum Mile. These heritage projects have included numerous exhibitions of traditional and contemporary art and topical programs that have become well-received landmark events. Ukrainian American artist Max Vityk was born in Lviv, Ukraine, where he studied and received a doctorate in geology at Lviv State University. In 1989, he moved to the United States and settled in Houston. During his extensive travel assignments, Max became interested in studying American modern art and took up painting, heavily influenced by the artists of the abstract expressionist school. He has exhibited widely, attracting a devoted international audience to his penetrating mystical and mythical vision. Recent exhibitions include Art's Marked Gallery in Cairo, Egypt, the International Museum Art and Science in McAllen, Texas, Tulver's Gallery International in Kyiv, Ukraine. He presented works at Scope Art Fair at Basel, Context Art Fair in New York and Miami, and the Art Cave Contemporary Fair in Ukraine. Max's monumental project Energy is on permanent display at Shell headquarters in The Hague, the Netherlands. Max has previously held 2 solo exhibitions with the Ukrainian Institute of America, and now we are pleased to present his first online presentation. Welcome, Max. It's so nice to see you again, although virtually. We treasure our long-standing collaboration and your generous artist contributions, and now our first online exhibition of your work. Let's talk a little bit about your creative practice. How did you become an artist? Is there a particular experience that drove you to this choice?
Well, thank you, Walter. It's a pleasure to be here. Interesting question. Actually, the reason I become artist is Jackson Pollock. First time I've seen his work in the MoMA Museum in New York, it was like complete shock to me. Okay, I was blown out. I stand in front of that painting, the big mural, and I was like, wow. And then it's followed by you probably have seen this movie, Jackson Pollock. There was a moment there when he painted that large mural overnight.
Yes.
And essentially after that movie, next morning I just woke up and I bought paint and I got some canvas. I stretched that canvas and I start painting large. Immediately I move into large format of paintings. Okay, so that was pretty much the key impact. There were small events in my life, but if we would talk about something important and key, that was the one. Okay, that was that museum in MoMA, and then that movie Jackson Pollock, and that happened almost overnight.
That's very interesting. Jackson Pollock was your stimulus. And I guess what started you on this road that you're on right now. What was your first work of art that really mattered to you? And how did it define you and your path to further art making?
Well, actually, the answer to this question is connected to the previous one. Okay, because of that, overnight mural painting by Jackson Pollock, I was so excited, and I thought, oh, let's just try something similar. Okay, let's just do it. I bought a large canvas, I put it on the floor, and I started painting. And then I put it on the wall, and I finished the painting. The title of that painting is Secret Garden, and it's just amazing. I also painted it overnight. Okay, I stayed pretty much until probably until the morning. Okay, and I just painted that, and it's probably one of my most favorite paintings since that time. Okay, and it's still anytime when we travel somewhere, we just take that painting with us, and I have it at home. It's pretty large, so I need to have a pretty large space to put this in. Okay, and my son Martin, when he was a baby, he was just standing in front of that painting. We had a nice photo, and now he's a big guy, almost 2 meters, and he's still in that in front of that painting. So essentially, his entire childhood and growth happens in front of that painting. So it's just become a family painting. Yeah.
What country were you in when you painted that painting?
I was in the U.S. I was in Houston, Texas.
Interesting. What single ethical consideration most impacts the decision you make as an artist?
Well, I would say the art is subjective, and it will be interpreted or by different people in various ways. Okay, what might be antithetical for some people could be ethical for others. Because of art is subjective, it is quite vulnerable to ethical judgments. What I love in art is essentially the art gives you freedom to express your own belief, values, ideology, which sometimes I contrast with social values. So I do it, and I appreciate that freedom, and I express myself, and I let others to interpret. So that's pretty much it.
Interesting aspect of how others interpret your art. Your treatment of medium and color seems to parallel narrative on equal footing. Talk a little about your material approach to creating art. How do you conceptualize and execute a work in the studio?
Okay, so since I'm a geologist by training, I like rocks. As an artist, I like to paint. So, and I'm trying to merge those two things, rocks and a paint. Let's talk about rocks a little bit. Rocks have texture, they have different qualities. So what I'm trying to do is to essentially paint over the rocks, but I want to recreate the rocks on the canvas. So I use all sorts of different materials to actually create that rock-like texture. And then I paint over this. So essentially, it's almost like a cave painting to me. Okay, or I would say contemporary cave paintings. Okay. So that pretty much kind of summarizes my approach to artistic creation, rocks and a paint.
Very interesting. Walking around your large narrative paintings can be a dizzying, unsettling experience. Is it your goal to make your audience somewhat uncomfortable? is it important for your work to raise questions, to be disturbing, to predict the future?
I'm wondering where this observations. I assume that this is based on exhibitions I had in the institute. You know, that's probably
Yes.
it is. Okay? So I just want to be honest with you. Definitely, I do not try to be disturbing. I do not either. Neither I'm trying to predict the future. I'm wondering actually where it's coming from. You know, the predicting the future statement. So I just paint whatever I feel, and it's, to me, it's almost like automatic. Okay, it's unconscious, and it's it just happens. Okay, it just happens, and then it's just coming from somewhere, from inside, and when it happens, I just let other to look at it, interpret it, and but this is again, this is, as I mentioned before, is pretty subjective. So I'm not sure which. In the institute, I show several series. You know, one was a kind of geology type of series. Another one is the Warriors of Light. You probably referring to the Warriors of Light.
Yes.
The Warriors of Light were created during revolutionary times in Ukraine and in Egypt, and of course those events are disturbing. Of course, people lost their lives there, and I've been there, I've seen this, and that's what I painted later on, and that's what I expressed later on. So, but again, you know, no plans, no particular, you know, objective to actually to make it to be disturbing, not at all.
Thanks. Well, next question, maybe you have touched upon it. Do you consider your artwork to be influenced by geography or history? In what ways?
Let's talk about geography a little bit. I already mentioned Ukraine and Egypt. I mentioned the revolution. My painting, my art become a part of that revolution. I lived in Holland for quite a few years, and my art became a part of Dutch folk culture. I lived in a beautiful place not far from the sea in The Hague, and it just and everything there, the nature and local folk, just that's what found expression on my paintings. I lived in Arizona. There is a beautiful place in Arizona called Sedona, the red rock country, beautiful red rocks. So my paintings become the part of those red rocks. You know, I created a series called the Red Rocks. And then, you know, if we're talking about the geology in the rocks, as a geologist, I always dream to recreate the history of the Earth in paintings. And then in the series they call the Outcrops, I actually have done it, starting from the earliest times of the Earth formation, of Archean times, until today, almost today, like Quaternary. Was a very exciting trip from earliest parts of the history of the Earth to almost today. That's a history part of your question.
Okay. Yes, you did exhibit your outcrops. Well, where do you travel in your imagination these days? When was the last time a work of art transported you to a different?
That's a interesting question. You know, I mentioned about the textures and the rocks. And some people see my work as a kind of sculptural painting. Okay, because on the canvas you have the heavy layers of rock-like textures. What I've been wondering lately, go into the sculpture and actually recreate, for example, magmas or lavas, okay, or explosions or volcanic explosions in sculpture. I haven't done it yet, but I'm thinking about this. And I need some space. I need some, redesign my studio. But that's possibly would be a next step I'm going to make.
Fabulous. Very interesting. Well, you're telling us where you're going. We're going to follow you. Thank you. I wish you continued success. And I hope you come and visit us soon.
I'll definitely will do. Thank you, Walter. All the best.